I'm gonna go out. Yeah,
Okay.
my camera's not working. I don't know. I've tried everything.
Shane gonna join? I don't see Shane's name yet.
I don't see Shane. I haven't heard from him.
Alan, thanks for covering for me last, I guess on the 31st. I never got that meeting planner for some reason, so I missed the meeting. I heard you ran it for us, so thank you for that.
You're welcome, Jim.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, Tawana.
Good afternoon.
Hi there.
Hi, Miss Roebuck.
Hey, love. Okay, guys. So last week I was at Disney World for a week, did Animal Kingdom, Epcot. All I can say is do not go in September. It is hot.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
it was hot.
I've been in June before. I can't, yeah, it's crazy.
I went
Oh my
in
gosh.
July last summer.
Oh my goodness. I don't know when is a good time to go. It's wonderful. My 5-year-old had a blast, but the old people were about to die from the heat.
Halloween. It's perfect.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
I'm
Oh my
going in
goodness.
January, so I'll let you know how it is.
Oh,
Please.
I've been in December and it was great.
Yeah.
I have in the past been in December, but I can tell you don't go in September.
I was supposed to go in June of 2020, which led to a very long isolation period as we had to break it to two very sad, at that point, 9-year-olds that they were not going to Disney World.
I'm telling you, it's the only place. It rained. I was there 4 days. It rained every day. And immediately after the rain, the humidity would be so high and hot. It was just like it had never rained.
But you had a good time anyway, right?
We did. We did every water slide. I did every indoor performance. It was wonderful. The air conditioning works.
Great. Did you do the Avatar ride at Animal Kingdom?
I did. If it was inside, I did it.
That's my favorite one there.
Oh, yes. And of course, we've seen Lion King, both in the play and now the animation at Animal Kingdom. It was awesome. Just awesome.
Welcome back to reality.
I know, right? I'll take Winston-Salem's reality. It's okay.
Yeah, me too.
At least I know the Animal Kingdom here.
I'm showing, we probably need to get started. I'm showing
I think we're good.
36. Okay. I know we got a pretty full agenda. I may have somebody join us as we get started here, but appreciate everybody joining. Did everybody get the materials? I know I got them this morning, was able to review minutes and so on, but did everybody get everything we need for the meeting?
I think
Okay,
the
we have,
big question, just so Sharika and I know how to move forward with the meeting. Did anyone get the conflict of interest policy?
It would have been sent out at the end of August by Kathleen.
I got it from this morning's meeting.
Okay,
Same.
all right,
yeah, I haven't seen it.
all right. We'll have to talk
Which
about how to move
you
forward.
and I talked about that a little earlier, Andrew, when we were talking.
Yeah, I knew
Okay.
you have it. I didn't know if anybody else had it, and Kathleen can't remember, and I can't find it. So
Once you find it, we can send it out and then we can
I
review it and
resend
come
it to
back.
you. I resend it to you.
yep, I'll send it out right now while you're doing minutes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, like I've welcomed everybody. So normally we have a look at the minutes beforehand. I think we've all had a chance to do that. It sounds like. It seems like Shane has been my motion to adopt those, but I'll ask the group if you had a chance to review them, if I could get a motion to approve the minutes, or if there's any revisions or changes you want to make, let us know.
I'll make a motion that we approve them.
Okay,
Second.
okay, thank you, Robert. Thanks, Alan. Any opposed to approving those minutes? Okay, I'll take that as an approval. I appreciate that. All right, so we'll move on to the next order here. Andrew, I'm showing this one needs a vote. This is the NCHMIS GC seat elections. And I thought we had talked about some of that, but I'll turn it over to you and let's let you kind of tee that up for us.
Just really quickly, so for those of you who either don't know or haven't or don't remember, the database that we use, NCHMIS, is governed by a multi-COC jurisdiction, and we have a governing body that oversees it. The board is asking that we confirm who our representatives to that board are on an annual basis. So the current representatives to the board are me, Laura Lama, who's our local system administrator and runs the database, and Shrika. So we're just asking for a confirmation vote that this is our slate of representatives to the board.
Gotcha. So no change to what we've had.
So Andrea, unless I have the wrong,
Dying to do it. And
so unless I have the wrong meeting, it seems like there was a discussion last time about the alternate.
to NCHMIS?
Yes, I believe there was some discussion about the alternate and who could serve. I thought was a part of the discussion last time about serving. And I think it was person of lived experience or something.
Wrong board.
Okay.
I don't think that's this board.
Okay, I must be on too many.
No, I
Okay,
think that was probably the rating panel, maybe.
okay.
That was
Okay.
definitely the
was.
rating panel.
Yeah, that
Thank
was
Yeah.
back in July, I think we had that discussion. Yep.
I'm not saying that
Thank
the
you.
board couldn't benefit from folks with lived experience on it, but I wouldn't wish that on them.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you remember right, Teshin, about some additional members and an alternate, and some policy needed to get changed in order to allow that alternate to be added, but it was for a different purpose. At first, I thought it was what you thought whenever I saw it on the agenda.
Thank you. Sorry.
No. So I guess we need a motion then to continue with that slate of members.
Started. Download the Google Home app on a phone or tablet.
So how long does these members serve?
It feels like a lifetime appointment. There's no, they haven't capped the length of time people are on that board because they're looking for knowledge base. And so it tends to be position based.
I see.
And who did you say asked for, I guess, reaffirmation of who those representatives?
The governing board of the database wants to have each COC confirm their slate of people on the governing board.
Okay. Do you think that's something, to Tawana's question, they're going to want to do on an annual basis, or?
Yes, they want
Okay.
they want a confirmation annually about who our slate is.
Okay, so we'll get to look at that then probably on an
Yeah.
annual basis to determine who those folks would be. Okay.
And it's probably worth a discussion for our COC. We can have up to 3 representatives. And it has for the last 16 years been like, if you have this job, you get this joy. Maybe I'm displaying some bias about how I feel about this. We may want to talk about, because we now have 3 seats, if we want to diversify who's on that board. But I would suggest that we always keep our LSA on the board. But until Tim retired, it was me, Tim, and Laura. And then when Sharika came, she took over for Tim.
So, Mr. Chair, with no further discussion, I'd like to make a motion that we receive the 3 said names for representation with this body.
Okay, great. Thank you for that motion. Is there a second? I see Robert second. All right. Any further discussion on that? All right. Any opposed to the motion? All right. I'll take that as an approval. Thank you for that. All right. Moving to the next item here. Another approval, this time special NOFA recommendations. And Sharika, I'm showing you're going to cover that for us.
Yes. Can I share my screen?
I'll look to Andrea to answer that technical question.
Get started.
Hold on.
Download the Google Home app on a phone or tablet.
Now you should be able to share. Oh, wait, you share?
Yes, there it is. Okay, I don't know which one to share. Let me see.
I saw something pop up. But now it's no longer there.
Okay, do you guys see a Word document?
Yep.
Okay, so our special, this is for the special NOFA. So of course, this is the first year that HUD has come out with a COC NOFA of this kind. It is dedicated to unsheltered homelessness. So with these scorings, we did not have any previous program information to look at because these are all new programs. So these scores are based mainly off the applications that were submitted. So we only had 4 applications. One of the first applications that we'll talk about is the City of Winston-Salem's application. For the first time, we did have to actually submit for the planning grant funds. This is usually automatically given to us in the annual NOFA. So these funds cover training and administrative parts of the COC NOFA. Well, this would be for the special NOFA, and then they'll also cover the HMIS system expansion that we'll be required to do. Well, that is the first one. Samaritan Ministries, I believe Andrea has talked in the past about the empowerment team. This team is ending on September 30th. This is the team that we partnered with Baptist Hospital to provide street outreach services. Samaritan is looking to go ahead and pick up this team inside of Samaritan Ministries so that we can continue to have these special outreach services that are directed to those who are chronically homeless. They are looking for 2 positions to do that. All of these award amounts are for a 3-year period. The special NOFA at this time is the only grant period that under the NOFA that does a 3-year grant period. So we are looking for these funds to start sometime next year and continue for 3 years. And then the City of Winston-Salem, the City with Dwellings. City with Dwellings came up with a project REACH. So relationships offer engagement to achieving community housing. This will be consisted of housing services, rapid rehousing, and street outreach, and a one-stop shop that will be available for individuals to come in for assistance. The last one is United Way, the Community Intake Center Street Outreach Program. So they will have 2 individuals dedicated to street outreach to go out and complete assessments, intakes, and do that coordinated entry front part of the program. So these are the 4 projects that we have had submit applications, and the approval is for us to move forward with all 4 applications. City with Dwellings, their budget was decreased by about $400,000. Their original request was decreased to meet the amount of the $2.23 million. So these are the applications that were submitted for the special NOFA.
Sharika, I'm asking a dumb question, but when we say special NOFA, is this one time? Is this recurring?
We don't know. So it's
Okay.
called the Special NOFA. HUD named it the Special NOFA because they just decided to come out with something specifically for unsheltered. They haven't let us know if it's going to be another 3 years. They just gave some guidelines. This was in response to COVID, the increase in the unsheltered population. So we have no further guidelines besides what was in the RFP on if this is going to be continued funding or if this is going to be the only NOFA that they release in that manner. But this is their first. We're hoping that it's continued after 3 years, but at this time we don't have any clue.
So our portion of that special NOFA was the 2.2, and so it's all being allocated.
Yes, so with the special NOFA, unlike the annual NOFA, they are only choosing the first 12 COCs in each state. So luckily with North Carolina, there's only about 13 COCs, and we know for sure 2 of them are not applying, but they are only choosing the first 12 COCs in each state for funding. We still do have to submit an application. It does require a lot more collaboration and collaborative letters of support than our annual NOFA. So, and a lot more match when it comes to permanent supportive housing opportunities and things like that than our annual NOFA. So that would be the next step that we work on.
I do have a question. So, Ms. Sharika, I don't know if you need to answer or Andrea, but does this include the white flag shelter that we typically do in the fall, in the winter, as well as a white flag unsheltered program for families?
No, the special NOFA did not include shelter services. So those weren't eligible services.
So we may
it's,
not, we cannot, so we probably can't discuss it in this moment, but I personally would like to know, only because ESR has been involved and engaged in the past in what we do about the white flag shelter that's typically launched in October, November, December, I think through March, as well as how we address critical needs around homelessness with unsheltered people during that period of time that are specific to families.
So
This that point is unrelated to, I think, based on what your response was a moment, unrelated to this pot of money.
Yes, I agree that that is something that we do definitely have to discuss. And those are for our ESG funds, and that funding cycle actually starts in October, and runs until November. So the applications for those do start next month and run until mid-November for those type of funds.
Any other questions? Okay, so is this an item that you need for us to vote on, Sharika?
Yes, this would need approval so that we could, the requirement is for us to post this 30 days before applications are due. So this will be posted on the city website for us to start the actual application through HUD.
Okay, so then you're looking for a motion to approve what you've presented here. And I ask the group if there's no other discussion for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a motion to accept this recommendation of $2,233,957 for the submission of this special NOFA.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay,
Thanks.
I heard Robert.
Robert, okay.
All right. Is there anyone opposed to approving the motion of this group? Okay, hearing no opposition, we will consider that approved. Thank you for that, Sharika.
Thank you.
And group. And then looks like Sharika, you've got the next topic as well. I know Andrea asked about conflict of interest policy earlier, but I'll turn it to you and let you take that where you want to.
Yes. So last month, while preparing to do the applications for our state ESG and NOFA applications, we noticed that there is a requirement for us to have a conflict of interest policy for our COC. Our conflict of interest policy is mentioned in our governance documents. However, after reaching out to multiple agencies, I wasn't able to locate an actual policy that was system-wide. So we started creating a conflict of interest policy, and we sent it out to be presented last August. Sorry you guys didn't get it, but it is here on the screen. So the conflict of interest is part of our 24 CFRs as a requirement to have. So we do have to have each person involved within the COC to sign this annually. It talks about how no members may participate in or influence discussions or decisions in regards to awarding of grants or other financial benefits to an organization that they represent or to themselves as individuals. So we talked to various COCs and received their documents and created one particularly for our COC. The commission, which is you guys, will be the ones to hold hearings and determine if a conflict or potential conflict of interest exists. And we will bring this conflict of interest policy back annually. So the purpose of this policy is to make sure there is no conflict of interest within our COC, and to make sure that we are held to the highest standards of transparency, fairness, and conduct, so that we can have the public's trust. This policy will apply to all COC members, including the voting members, board members, and committee members. And then we get into the definitions. We talk about what a conflict of interest is, and we also talk about financial interest and the definitions of a financial interest. A person has a financial interest if the person has directly or indirectly through business, investment, or family, has ownership or investment interest in any entity, which we have a transactional arrangement, a management position in any entity, which has a financial interest, a compensation arrangement with a COC, or potential ownership or investment interest. Currently, we do check this with the rating panel. We do have them sign a conflict of interest policy because we do not currently allow anyone who is currently on the board or a member of an agency, such as currently receiving services or currently working with the agency, to be a part of the rating panel. So right now we do have some of the rating panel members, they all have to sign these conflict of interest policies. So procedures, we do ask them a duty to disclose. So if there is a conflict of interest, you will need to disclose it. Recusal of self, any COC member has a duty to recuse themselves at any time from involvement in any decision or discussion, which may be a conflict of interest. So if you have an agency that has a conflict of interest in a discussion or in a vote, they would need to recuse themselves from that vote. And then determining whether a conflict of interest exists, the Commission on the Homelessness Board will review all conflict of interest complaints, and they will determine if the conflict of interest exists. And then if the complaints will be submitted to the Commission on the Homelessness with a copy given to the collaborative applicant. If there is considered to be a violation of the conflict of interest, the Commission on the Homelessness will hold a meeting with the person, and this hearing will be required to be recorded. The names of the persons who disclose or otherwise are found to have a financial interest or possible conflict of interest will meet with the Commissioner on his homelessness, and the Commissioner on the Homelessness will write up the records of the proceedings. Annual statements. Each year we are required to sign annual statements when we are applying for funds. All of our project applications, applicants are required to sign annual statements stating there is no conflict of interest, and they agree and comply with conflict of interest policies. And then exceptions and changes, we do have the right as the COC, so everyone within the COC reserve the right to make any exceptions to the policy and make changes to the policies and procedures. And then the final document is just what currently we've created for a conflict of interest form to look like. So the top would be conflict of interest complaint form. And then the review board, which is the commission, will complete the bottom, stating if there's a proposed action such as a hearing. And then if there is a hearing, they will detail the outcome, and the chair will sign and date. So that is the conflict of interest policy.
Will you go back for a second to the policy, the exceptions part? I just wanted to make sure I saw that. So the COC reserves the right to make an exception to this policy and procedures. Okay. So I know not everybody had a chance to spend time reading through it. You just walked through it pretty thoroughly. When do you need the vote on this? Is it time sensitive?
So it is time sensitive. Unfortunately, it didn't get out in time. We sent it out at the end of August, but somehow it didn't get out. So if it's not approved today, I would need it by, if we were to do like a take time and read it, I would need it by the 26th, only because this is required for any of our grant applications to be submitted, which are all due on the 30th.
I will apologize for that. Sharika did send it, and I don't know what happened that it didn't get attached to the agendas.
Okay, this is Cynthia. This is the first time we've done a conflict of interest policy?
I would say there's one mentioned in our governance charter, but I can't seem to locate it. So in the interest of time and transparency of us requiring to have it per HUD, one was created.
Yeah, we thought we had one. When I look back at our grant applications, we've always submitted our agency's conflict of interest policy. We could not, most policies go up on the COC website, and we couldn't find it on the website. And we couldn't find it in either mine or Sharika's records. So without going through 10 years worth of.
Right. So do we know if this is materially different from what we've had in the past? Did you change anything materially?
So there was not one in the past. So the person that was here before me, I've only been here 2 years. My predecessor, Tim, had been here 20 plus years. And what was happening was that the agency will all submit a different policy. However, per HUD guidelines, the policy needs to be a COC-wide policy. And it needs to be pertained to the 24 CFR guidelines that are specifically directed from HUD.
Okay.
So
And,
this policy was created. We worked with other local COCs such as Greensboro and Mecklenburg County, looked at their COC policies and also pulled the CFR regulations. And we spoke with HUD. We actually had a recent HUD audit and spoke with them with the best way to make sure that our conflict of interest policy was in compliance. So that's how we created this one. Just because currently each agency has something different, which isn't the correct way for us to do it.
okay.
It's not different from what we have done in practice.
Okay.
No, I remember votes in the past where people recused themselves because they were, had a conflict of interest. So I think we kind of followed at least the main premise of this.
It's just now written down. That's right.
Right.
And it's also why when we present, like we did earlier in this meeting, the slate of projects, Sharika walks through the process. but neither Sharika or I comment on anything because we're both funded through these applications.
I hear it's time sensitive, so I want to make sure we don't slow anything down unnecessarily or prevent, or cause bad outcomes. It does feel like because it's a new policy, we need to be able to have an opportunity to read it and then approve it. Could we send out a vote electronically through email after today and give folks a chance to read the policy? And since it's brand new, I guess I'll ask Andrea you that question.
I think it can go either way. I've skimmed through the policy, although I've had it for a long time. If folks want to take a little bit of time and do an electronic vote, we could do that. As Sharika said, we just need to have time to post it. So today's the 20th. If folks want to move towards an electronic vote, if we could just have the votes in by the 23rd at the latest.
Okay. So you could send that out right after this meeting, give folks a chance to read it, and then respond back to your email through an electronic vote.
Yep. And everyone,
I
everyone
think
in their inboxes now, I would
Yeah.
send it back with instructions on the electronic vote.
Okay.
Jim, do we need to go ahead and do a motion in a second for that so that when the votes come in, they're official?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, this is Shane. I'll do the motion.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second.
I might also
To-
put into the motion just so that the response to the email would be response nays only. So we don't have to wait on a bunch of yays to meet quorum. Just if you have an issue, say if there's a nay vote to send it, that if that
No,
works.
I don't think we need to do it that way, Shane.
Okay, all right, no problem.
I think
Just-
a negative assurance when we're on the phone feels right to me, but I think if we're going to do an electronic vote, we should just respond yes or no.
Very good.
Okay, so are we voting on the motion on the floor?
Let me make sure. So the motion would be that we send out by email and respond by the 23rd with yays and nays of acceptance of the policy.
Okay, we still taking Robert's second?
Is Jim frozen?
I think he is.
It's like it.
Yeah, I think Jim is frozen.
Oh, yep, he just popped off. Uh-oh.
We'll give him a sec to come back on. If not, Alan, you get to pinch it. These Zoom meetings are never dull.
Not at all.
You're on mute, Jim.
Wow, I didn't have myself to mute, but okay, let's try it again. I'll rewind.
Now you're back.
Gremlins everywhere. So the motion, as I understood it, was we want folks to have a chance to read the policy, but we need an electronic vote by the 23rd. So there's a motion and a second to approve the policy after folks have had a chance to review it and provide any feedback. So is that the understanding of the group?
Yes.
Okay, great. So then Andrea, you'll send that out
Yep.
for the group? Okay.
You sure will.
All right, very good. Thank you for that. A little bit different than we've done in the past, but I think that should work for us. Okay. Moving to the next item, Andrea, I'm showing you're up next here with the non-congregate family winter shelter discussion.
So this is mostly an update. It addresses some of Tawana's concerns. Just for the big picture, the overflow for single adults is, there is a committee meeting about that. They are going to do a presentation / discussion with the COC members on the COC Wednesday 2:00 call next Wednesday. In the past, we have typically not done an overflow plan for families. A lot of that based on the fact that we've very rarely ever had families sleeping outside that we identified. That changed with the pandemic. And so we have been identifying more families sleeping outside. So last year was the first year where we had any plan over the winter months to provide overflow options for families. We're going to try it again this year. The basic structure is going to be that as families come seeking shelter, if the family shelters are full, and there's 2 of them, one at Salvation Army, one at ESR, they will be referred to coordinated assessment, who will screen folks for eligibility, and then connect them to a overflow placement. Our goal is to have an overflow placement where the families would have an individual unit, hopefully a kitchenette of some variety. And then we will allow that family to stay there until they get housed or until the end of overflow season, which would be March 31st. And there is a plan that we are working out that we will be able to have food delivered to them daily, or if they have kitchenettes, we may be able to deliver grocery boxes as well. So that, just so you have an update, that this is the general plan, and then we're looking for a subcontractor that will help provide the monitoring and case management for folks who are in that shelter. United Way is preferring not to do that piece this year. So the family group is meeting again tomorrow afternoon, so we should have many more details ironed out, but I did want you all to know that this plan was being worked on before our October meeting, when it would feel like we were really behind the 8 ball. So that's the plan. If folks have questions about it, let me know.
It sounds like it's mostly nailed down, a few pieces left.
Yep, it's mostly nailed down. We are waiting for confirmation for funding from the city and state, and then we are hopefully tomorrow we'll have confirmation of who the subcontractor will be to manage the to provide the case management and monitoring.
And like when the dates would be that.
Oh, the dates will follow the same calendar as overflow for single adults, which will be December 1st through March 31st.
So Andrea, this afternoon I had a meeting with my staff in regards to the family overflow. And
Okay.
as you know, we have done the individual overflow in the past.
Yep.
We're electing not to do the family overflow this year. I think you are aware, I have 3 new success coaches, and I believe potentially with this project, we would have 2 part-time new people to be added to the fold at ESR. And it's my choice at this time not to take on the overflow family shelter, simply because I just have a basic new housing team.
Okay.
I would rather not do that this year. I certainly am willing to collaborate and partner and co-lead with an agency, but in terms of us actually absorbing it into our programmatic structure, I would rather not do it because of our capacity with so many new staff people at this time.
That's fine. I appreciate that. I will follow up with you and Pam. There are a couple agencies that have expressed interest. They will need training on working with families. So we may reach out.
Yeah, we certainly can provide training.
Yeah.
Any of those kinds of things. But in terms of putting it under our fold, I would rather not do that at this time.
Thank you for letting us know. Any other
Alright, so you
questions
can get,
about the
I guess
overflow?
you can give us a final update as it's finalized. Okay.
When everything's final, we'll have names and associated with everything. But
Perfect.
Right. Jim and
by tomorrow
Jim
afternoon,
and
we'll have
team,
a full plan.
Jim and team ESR has been leaned upon to help doing the overflow process, both with individuals. We also do family sheltering and those kinds of things. This is the nature of what we do. So I certainly want to make sure that I'm communicating to the fold that we are certainly willing to train, help, co-train, do whatever's necessary to make sure that this is a successful endeavor.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay. Anything else on that particular topic before we move to the next? Andrew, you're up again.
Jim, this is not something related to this topic, but something that ESR has done in the past. I think the city, this might be to Sharika maybe. In the past, when there has been hurricane situations down east and in other parts of North Carolina, ESR has been one of the members of the team to go and help set up at the Coliseum, emergency management kinds of stuff in concert with emergency management to do assessments for people that are engaged in that. Given all the things that are happening in Puerto Rico and maybe even for us with hurricanes in the future, ESR is certainly willing to continue in that capacity. But I also want to make sure that we communicate to all of you that we are open to helping to do whatever emergency assessments our state and up this way might need to help families stabilize during bad weather situations. We have been called upon a number of times, and that's something that we will continue to do.
Thank you, Tawana. You guys have, especially with the recent fire, you guys were a huge help there and, issued a lot of payments, helped a lot of families. So we appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And for the
We have
willingness
not
to
been-
continue.
Thank you. We have not been asked, but we served over 600 people and provided over $300,000 in concert with the city for families that were in need. Thank you.
Very good. So Andrea, I'm going to turn to the next topic on our agenda here. It's just, I think it's an update on the COC policy on accepting people from hospitals.
Actually, less of an update and more of a request for some volunteers. So before the
Build a
pandemic,
shelter.
can you hear me?
Yes.
So before the pandemic, we the interactions between the hospitals and shelters when they were discharging folks was handled on an individual basis based on the hospital and the shelter. From the shelter's perspective, I'm sure there's a different piece of this conversation with the hospitals. Often what happened is folks would be discharged any time of the day or night and just dropped off at a shelter, often by taxi cab, without any communication. During the pandemic, Coordinated Assessment stepped in and said to all the hospitals in the area, we do not want you discharging anybody from the hospitals to a shelter without clearing it through Coordinated Assessment first. That has sort of slipped since we haven't been coordinating a COVID shelter. But I want to revisit the possibility for a COC-wide policy on how shelters in our continuum of care handle and want to receive referrals from hospitals when they have it. So this is really a request for a couple of volunteers to join that committee. So we have 5 folks from the operating cabinet, which primarily represent all of the shelters. But we'd like a couple of folks from the commission, if you would be willing to participate in that conversation. And then
So I'll volunteer.
Okay, great.
I have a question that's relevant, and
Yes.
that is that I work for Atrium Health. So
know.
with our conflict of interest, should I not be on that policy, or should I be on it because I have inside information? What is the
It's actually, this would not be a conflict because you're not voting on resources.
There's no financial gain.
Yeah, there's no financial.
it. All right, just want to make sure I'm covering and following a new policy. So
Right. This is actually why we want you on the commission.
in that case, I would be glad to be on that. In fact, working with the emergency departments is something I'm doing currently. So
Awesome. That sounds great.
So Andrea, do you need my position as it relates to families, or is this primarily individuals that are discharged?
I mean, we have most of the, I mean, we'll look at everybody's discharge and we will run it through the operating cabinet and everybody for feedback on it. So we do not have anybody. We don't have anybody from either ESR or Salvation Army, but we do have people who deal with families.
I certainly will serve.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I'm going to send out a doodle poll in the next couple of days to see when we can find a time to meet.
good.
Great. All right. So Andrea, I'll show you still next with an update on our veteran goal.
Yep. So while I pull up the information from the VA on the progress, next Wednesday, we have a meeting planned with all of the veteran service providers specific to Forsyth to look at what we have been doing and what we need to do between now and the end of the year to meet our goal. So preview in October, you should have an update on the COC level information about where we are with our progress. What I have to share with you today is an update from the VA. So this is looking at just the Salisbury VA catchment area, which is essentially runs from Charlotte north to the Virginia line and west until I think about Hickory when the Asheville VA picks up. So it's a fairly big area. Their goal as a medical center was 353 veterans during the course of the whole year. They have so far this year housed 209 folks. To meet their goal, they need to do an average of 36 a month. And this is, as you can see, where the housing placements have been coming. So one of the things that they mention in the slide is that if there's veterans who are dual enrolled in a program, they're only counted once in one of these bubbles. So there are 76 of the vets came from SSVF, 90 of them from HUD-VASH. This RT is a whole collection of different programs, including the GPD, which in our community is Veterans Helping Veterans Heal. And then they have some other programs, and you can see the acronyms down at the bottom here, that also do a little bit of housing for folks. They collectively have placed 101 folks across the Salisbury catchment area, and then 13 others. So we're going to meet next week, look through what is happening in Forsyth and how we can accelerate placements here. And then just a view of what's happening nationally. So nationally, the goal is 38,000 veterans. They have so far nationally placed 26,554 vets. So they're just about not quite 70% of their goal. The average placements per month will need to be 2,800 nationally. And then up in this corner, you can see about 13,500 came from, of those placements came from rapid rehousing. HUD-VASH did about 10,700, 800 of those placements, 9,500 coming from other other VA programs, and 3,100 coming from other housing programs. So that's what's happening with that goal. So next month, if I get another update from the VA, we'll share that, but we'll have a similar graphic just for Forsyth is our goal.
So it looks like both are on pace basically to meet their goal roughly.
I think so. I think for Salisbury, they're a little behind what's pacing nationally. So one of the things we're going to sort of discuss is how much of this 36 we can contribute to that per month goal that they need to meet. But I think it's a very doable goal.
Yeah, you can kind of see how big Salisbury is too. It's about 10%. No, I'm wrong. Never mind. Got carried away there.
Yeah.
All
There's
right.
a lot of medical centers.
So thanks for that update. So you'll continue to give us updates.
Yep.
That's what I'm hearing you say. Okay.
My goal is to have an update every month between now and December.
Okay, great. All right, well, we'll move to the next topic then. Sharika, I'm showing the home-based recommendations. So let me turn it over to you.
This is just an FYI. I provided the document to Andrea today to send out. The home-based final report has been provided. It's about 63 pages. It has been presented to City Council. So now we're providing it for everyone's review. Home-based is returning in October to speak to City Council again to give forth some recommendations on changes they want to see in our COC. Once City Council approves those recommendations, then they will be brought forth to the operating cabinet and the commission to let you guys know what those recommendations are and any suggestions on how to move forward. We're pretty sure City Council is going to be very involved in getting more information about monthly or quarterly about how those recommendations are going and any changes that we are looking to make to the COC to fit those recommendations that are put forth. So that document was just provided. I gave it to Andrea today to send out to the full COC. Once again, it's about 63 pages. So I didn't want to give it to you guys now and give you about a month to read over it, process it, come back with any questions. So in October, when those recommendations are presented and approved by City Council, we can move forward as a COC and commission on incorporating those recommendations based on what's approved and moving forward with any changes we may need to make.
So I'm assuming the city wants feedback from the COC on recommendations made by Homebase, which was a consultant that the city hired directly. Is that correct?
Yes, so Homebase was a consultant that the city hired directly to review the gaps within our COC. And that consultant came down for a few months and did stakeholder interviews with various agencies, community members, our city council members, local elected officials, as well as those experiencing homelessness. And they also looked at our data in HMIS and also the various funds that we receive and how they're currently being utilized. So all of that was done over a period of a few months. And now they've released a report on their findings, recommendations, well, just on what they've seen. And then the follow-up after City Council meets with them again would be the recommendations. So that would be a separate document that will go out after they meet with City Council again in October.
So Sharika, this is Cynthia. So I did get a copy of the PowerPoint, didn't get to the end. Are the recommendations included in
No.
this?
So
So-
once they meet with City Council has to approve us to do those recommendations. Once they meet with City Council.
But we
then
don't
those-
know what the recommendations are.
No,
this
you're
point.
reading the report. So the report comes before the recommendations.
So does the report have observations in it?
Yes, that's what the report is. It's the information they've obtained from the various focus groups, stakeholder interviews, and everything like that. So it's the observations they've obtained from that and also from looking at our HMIS system and things like that.
Well, typically they make some recommendations or some preliminary recommendations as a part of it. They didn't do that?
There are some items in there. However, the final recommendations will be presented after City Council they do another presentation to City Council.
So Sharika, does the commission have an opportunity to provide feedback to either Home Baked or the City Council before final recommendations are made?
So we can definitely provide feedback to Home Base before the final recommendations are made, and see if they can include that as well into their presentation that they'll make to the City Council.
Well, it would be nice to see the preliminary recommendations.
I
But they
sent them all out this morning, probably around 11.
So the preliminary recommendations are part of the document. The final recommendations will be provided once.
That's what I asked. Okay.
Yes, that's what I was saying. There's two separate documents. That final document would just be recommendations that we move forward on will be provided after they're approved by the
Right.
City Council.
Okay. Thank you.
So all you're asking for at this point is that we take some time and review through the report, 60 some odd pages. If we do have feedback, Andrea or Sharika, how should we provide feedback?
That
Is it
feedback will be provided to me.
Okay.
And then I believe you guys all have home-based email as well. It was provided a little while back when they first came in April. If not, it can be provided again.
So I think to Cynthia's point, Andrea and Sharika and Mr. Chair, it would be most helpful if we could get the information prior to the meeting. I know there was a few mishaps this time, but in order for us to have an educated conversation, it would just be most helpful if we had some more of the information in front of us, so that we can have adequate dialogue about our feedback in the moment. Could be helpful for you all.
Yes, I agree. So one of the information was provided to Andrea, and they're going to send it out. It's only on the agenda so you guys know as an FYI to read it and why it was given to you. But it is, and also because with it being a 65-page document, I know some people are really busy. So I want to give ample amount of time to review that document. I don't think a week would suffice, or even 2 weeks sometimes. So giving a great deal of time to review that document is why it's on the agenda, so you know.
When is Home Baked presenting to the City Council?
October 11th.
You know, one thing typically we had consultants assessing some group, and this is in banking, right? But my experience was the group had an opportunity to meet with the consultant, answer questions, ask questions. I wonder if we should ask for the opportunity to meet with Home Base and let us ask those questions before it goes to the city, just to make sure we need to clarify something before final recommendations are made.
I believe the report has been sent out more than once back in April. I'll check again, but this isn't the first time it's been on the agenda. It's been on the agenda since they started in April. So, and then we did have Home Base do a few meetings. I want to say they did a lot of meetings. I want to say the last one was in August or July, where they presented it again. And that was sent out by Kathleen to the full COC. So they did do another one in either August or July, where it was a large group where they got a lot of feedback on that as well.
But not to this group, I guess.
No, you guys are part of the email invite. It was to the full COC. It was,
okay.
And elected officials were there. It was a huge invite. And then there were also community meetings. I know Tawana's whole team came to that one that was in person. They elected to come in person. There was just various meetings that happened in regards to the document previously.
But Home Base has never actually presented to the commission.
No, the Home Base had their own meeting because they wanted to do breakout groups. And the point of Home Base having their own meeting was because they are a separate third party. So they had Kathleen send out the invites. However, these were done on their Zoom platforms. because this was not a city held meeting or a United Way held meeting, but a separate held meeting. And they wanted, for instance, I didn't attend all of those because they wanted individuals to feel comfortable in voicing opinions and things like that. So they had various meetings since April to meet everyone's needs. So some were in person, some was via Zoom. There was one where the actually commission link was used. So there were various meetings since April.
Okay, but Sharika, Cynthia, these are data gathering meetings. So they were just getting the information to compile their report and recommendations.
There
So
was also 2 report out meetings.
okay.
But I think in the past, this body has had a report out to the commission as the governing board, separate from a full COC board meeting.
So there was one that was sent out. That was in August. I just found it. It was in August.
So I guess based on where we are, the city's already scheduled for home base to come on October 11th. Everybody's got now, this group has the 60 some odd page document. What we need to do is read it. If there's any feedback or questions we have, we need to fairly quickly try to get those questions, feedback back to you, Sharika.
That's fine.
Okay. Is there anything else, Andrea, from your vantage point that we need to consider?
I don't think so.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody? All right, so we will read that pretty quickly. It's a lot to take in, 60 pages, but we'll do that and then try to get you any feedback. And then maybe it would be nice with the final recommendations to actually hear from home base and maybe have them come to this group and talk to the group. Since this is the governing body, right?
Yeah, I'll see if that's possible because once again, it was already done and the contract has ended. So I will see if that's possible. I can't make any promises. But once again, it will probably be done on a separate link because once again, with them being a third party and it not being associated, they do use their own links. So that would probably be the way it's done.
All right. Thank you for that. All
But
right.
also, Andrea, I sent the presentation that they presented to the COC and everyone that attended the August meeting where they talk about the findings, recommendations, and things like that. I sent that as well this morning. So that was attached to the full report.
And I sent that out to this group, I think, right after you sent it to me. If not, I'll send it again with instruction. I'll resend it with instructions on where to send comments.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep moving through the agenda here. I know we'll be pressed for time. Andrew, I guess I had Kathleen and you for data quality review process manual and feedback.
So we're definitely pinch hitting on this one because Kathleen was going to, this is actually Laura's item, but Laura is on vacation this week. Kathleen was going to cover for her. Last month we met and Laura reviewed the data quality plan. And this one I'm 100% sure we sent out to everybody early and then it was attached to the meeting invite for this meeting for review. And Sharika, the one piece I don't know, and maybe you know, was it on for approval this month or is it on for one more review before approval?
It is on for approval for next month, October, I believe.
So this month is just another presentation to say we've been
Final
working on
comment.
it. Final comments, and next month it will, that this plan that you all have will be on the agenda for approval.
Yeah, I believe she hasn't gotten a lot of feedback, so she just wants to make sure everyone has read it. She hasn't received any feedback.
So I think that's all on this agenda.
Okay. So I'm showing one more, Andrea, and you're up on it, supportive housing,
Yep.
FMR update.
This one is to let everybody know, just to circle back, earlier in the year, we had asked permission to talk with HUD about the challenges we're having with FMRs, which are the fair market rates, which are the rates that we can use federal money to help with housing payments. So it affects all of our voucher programs and our rapid rehousing programs. And so the new FMRs came out. They will be effective October 1st. We are very excited about that. They went up significantly. So we're very excited about that. We will pay really close attention to how the new FMRs impact our ability to get people housed and to find landlords willing to accept vouchers, particularly between October and December, that first quarter that we have the new FMRs, to see if they have a positive impact. So hopefully they will. They went up pretty significantly.
So they were, before they were significantly under what
Yes.
the actual cost would be, right? So how does the new FMR compare to the reality of cost?
So FMRs general tend to be on the low side. This is just in general. HUD has a formula. I don't know, Shariq, if you understand the formula. Okay. You want to talk about what the formula is?
So the city reached out to HUD in regards to the FMR rates. We wrote a letter to HUD. Multiple cities, local municipalities, CLCs wrote letters to HUD that in July and August. So when we wrote the letter to HUD, we encouraged them to use, instead of their normal rate, to use the local market rates and also rates that are shown through various basically web searches that you can use, like Zillow, things like that, to do the actual calculations. So this would differentiate from what they usually use. They did agree to do that for 2023 as well as 2024, but that there is no guarantee that that will continue. The goal is to continue to, I don't want to say pressure, but to continue to pressure and influence HUD to continue to use those rates and systems rather than using the calculations that they currently use. It seemed to work this time because there was a huge emphasis on that. Various states, including California, here locally, Washington, a lot of them band together. We all wrote letters and posted them on the HUD website. There was a forum that was done that we all attended and voiced for that. So it's good for approximately 2 years, but it might change back. There's no guarantee. I don't think it would, because it wouldn't make sense to go down. So I think it's kind of, I don't know. I don't think it would change, but they did put that it was possibly a temporary solution, but I don't think that would make sense to change.
So here's the FMRs. You can see the bottom line here is what they currently are. So for our 1 bedrooms, we have been trying to rent them for $664. The new FMR is $805. What I'm seeing, it's a little low, but it's not out of the question. Whereas $664 wasn't even in conversation. Our 2 bedrooms went from $808 to $969. 3 bedrooms went, so everything went up pretty significantly. But just to give you some context, like the apartments that were on Cloverdale right next to Highland Presbyterian that are being built now, those apartments, before they got torn down to be rebuilt, were renting around $800, $850 a month for 1 and 2 bedrooms. They are now a 1-bedroom is starting at 1,700. So that, and those are market rate as opposed to fair market rate. But one of the challenges for all of our housing programs is our community is significantly investing in upgrading apartments, but they're taking apartments like the ones on Cloverdale that were naturally occurring affordable housing, so that they were without any special subsidies in this, in the range and realm of fair market rents that would accept HUD subsidies, and they're being renovated into fully market rate housing, which is outside of any negotiation for fair market rate.
Do I remember right that the 2022 fair market actually was lowered from 2021?
It was, yes. So our 2021 rates were actually higher than the 2022 rates.
Andrea, did you say that these take effect October 1st?
You. With the new, so October, the federal fiscal year is October 1 through September 30. So these are the new ones for the new federal fiscal year.
Thanks.
So as an organization that provides housing for families, this hike increase is creating quite a challenge. You know, we see all the signs of hiring, but yet some of the jobs that are there are still not paying enough to meet the total expense for a household. So if you're looking at this rent, then you factor in utilities, food, those types of things. Our average families, and we're not talking about gigantic families with 5 children. We're talking about families with 2 to 3 kids. This is creating trauma in the household financially. So I just want to say to this body, as best we can, in whatever settings we're in, we can't necessarily control HUD, but in whatever settings we're in, let us all be champions about how this is impacting the greater good of the family. I know Andrea recently was notified, and I sat through a presentation from a developer. I want to say he was out of Seattle. I might have the state wrong, but he basically was recommending something that he refers to as pods, which are modules. They basically are about the size of a half bathroom, and you put 2 people in it on a cart, or I think it was like a pull-out bed. In the moment, I can't think what the proper name is for that. But basically, we're looking at a small dwelling that is not necessarily suitable for 2 individuals. And then he also had some suggestions of 4 beds for families. The bathrooms was outside, and the eating spaces were in a cafeteria kind of setting outside. So I said, as a mother who had 2 sons, I'm not about to let my 8-year-old wander through the night to go to the bathroom. That was a concern of mine. Plus, I thought the space was inhumane. So I said no. Not sure, I think Andrea had said no, but that was an option for optional housing. But we still have to treat families in a family kind of setting. And I was very uncomfortable with his presentation, but in best we can, let us all continue to be champions for families so that we have affordable housing in our community. For people that are driving through Winston-Salem, on the interstate, we look wonderful with all this wonderful stuff being built, but it's not affordable. And that's extremely unsettling for an organization and for myself who champions and is an advocate on behalf of families.
I agree with you, Tawana. Right in the FMR, because it uses private sector data now, from a HUD and housing voucher standpoint, it's a great idea. But from a standpoint of when we're having families who have to move back into housing on their own, with these being considered a fair rent amount, that might not be such a good idea. So having that balance is very concerning. And I know Andrea talked a little bit about the advocating for affordable housing from this board. to local officials and various other individuals. I think that's going to be very important so that we can use a lot of our HUD money and federal money to build affordable housing where we can set the rates, just like ESR has, where you guys can only house so many people. You guys can't house the whole city. So having more housing like you guys have available would be amazing.
So the other thing I wanted to tack on to this conversation was just a little bit of conversation with the commission on the strategies we have had in the past around supportive housing and some encouragement and for us to look at other options. So in the past, when you've seen all of the recommendations coming through for ESG and COC funds, for a lot of different reasons that Tim would have been much more eloquent than I am at explaining the philosophy behind it. We put a lot of resources into vouchers and to rapid rehousing, and not into physical housing stock. What you saw last month in the application for the first time actually was a project around purchasing and rehabbing an actual physical building for a partner in the COC to own and manage that would be used as supportive housing. And so one of the things that over the next few months I'd like to talk with the commission about and present some alternatives for us to look at as a community is options for nonprofits, for human service providers to own and manage their own housing projects. Because what we're seeing is we are being priced out of the market in Winston-Salem, and unless we start building inventory of actual stock that we control, we're gonna, I think, continue to have a very hard time in finding supportive housing, particularly for our folks that have the sort of deepest needs around mental health and substance abuse, or even physical disability support. So we've seen a lot of folks coming across my desk because agencies that they're working with can't find accessible housing that meets their needs for folks with physical disabilities as well. So if any of you on the commission have seen projects in other communities that it would be good for us to look at in our community, I'd like for us to look at as a commission, but then also to start talking about why we need to, in Forsyth County, begin building an inventory of housing units that are controlled by the COC so that we have affordable, safe housing that will work with the resources that we have from HUD to house homeless folks. Don't know if folks have thoughts they want to share now. This will definitely be an agenda item coming forward.
Always a topic, every meeting, lack of affordable housing. Yeah.
And I think that, the other conversation, I think over the next few months that is to converse with the city council and the county commission on the need for investing in site-based, which is what I'm referring to, site-based projects in our community. So the city council has had a couple come before them in the last few months, and they've vetoed all of them. So I'd like for the commission to have the information and then begin engaging in conversation about why these kinds of projects are important.
Okay. More discussion to come. But good news here, I guess, if we want to look for a silver lining in a dark cloud, at least we've got some relief in the fair market.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Well, that takes us through the agenda that I had. I'm not sure if there's any other topics that the group has we want to discuss. So I'll just ask if there's anything else for the group. Okay, I guess we do have a couple of assignments then following the meeting. So one was for everybody to take a chance to read the conflict of interest policy, and there'll be an electronic vote. So Andrew, I think you're going to send an email for that with the policy and asking for the vote. And then the second item was the home base document with their preliminary recommendations for us to take a chance to read that and then provide feedback back to you, Sharika. I think that was going to come in a separate email. So 2 emails to look for. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Anything else that I am not thinking about that we talked about as a follow-up?
And they will come from me hopefully today as opposed to Kathleen, just so you all know, since she's out.
Okay, great. So we'll look for those. I appreciate everybody's attention and all that you're doing on this topic. Really do. I know some of you are involved every day, all day, and I do thank you for all that you're doing. All right. If there's nothing else, we can adjourn. Andrew, you look like you had something you might be about to say there, but I might be reading your lips wrong. Okay.
Shane.
All right. All right. If not, you guys have a good rest of the day. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.